Okay, thanks for tuning into today's video, MegaWhale team. Today's video is going to be a VRA update. We're going to be taking a look at the technical analysis and the market analysis, trying to give you guys an overall opinion on where we think the price will be heading, where we think you should be looking at buying, and what we think about the price action now. We're going to be answering a few community questions in regards to VRA and the price action. We're going to be going over a bit of news and talking about a whole range of other things. Let's dive right in. So one thing before we get started, I do want to bring your attention to the pinned comment down below. Hit up the links, our Twitter, our Telegram, our VIP, our Crypto Academy course. For more information, you can contact me directly. So the market analysis to start off with, we have two formations here. We have a symmetrical triangle, which is our primary pattern. I'm going to refer to that as a primary pattern. And our descending channel, which we recently broke out of. Over here, we got a nice entry and got a 64% profit here, which is nice, which is our secondary market structure. I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now because I just wanted to quickly identify it before we started, but we don't really need it. It's not really relevant anymore. So going from there, obviously these two black lines, the descending trend line and the ascending trend line, they're acting as pretty major resistances and supports. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that we have major resistance and obviously a breakthrough at these points. And we're going to come back and talk about this bit specifically in a second. But on the top side, we have, again, a lot of support and resistance on these levels. Again, breaking through, centers quite parabolic. We talked a lot about that in the previous video. This was just an overextension. The whole entire market had that in October and November, but quickly did correct. So those are kind of the key indicated points, so the key points of interest on our symmetrical triangle, our primary market structure. We then have these red lines, which are major resistances. These are major resistance support levels. We can see we've actually come down and retested that major support line, which we said we actually would do in our previous video. And then we have these demand zones and supply zones. These are representative of our gray boxes. Now, there are many more horizontal supports and horizontal zones on this chart. We have simply just labeled the most important ones. For simplicity's sake and to not overcomplicate it, we're going to label just the most important ones for you guys. All right, so that is that. We're going to dive right into our technical analysis and talk about kind of where we think the price is going to be heading next. So just to be going over this real quickly here, it's really important that we understand what that is. And it could be a really bad thing for VRA, or it could be a really good thing for VR. It really just depends on how the next 3, or should I say 1 day and 17 hours plays out. What we have here is a very classic breakdown of our market structure. So a downwards breakout of a symmetrical triangle, which is a neutral pattern. And we're currently looking like we're retesting for a support resistance flip. So a support resistance flip is when the price or the structure previously acted as support, which it did, and now it is acting as resistance, which it is potentially doing. So if that occurs, we can expect this price to bleed continuing downwards to either the local low of July, which was here at around 7 cents, or worst case scenario, it could go lower into this demand zone. This is absolute worst case scenario. I do not believe this will happen. All right, I'm not going to say it will happen. I do not believe this will happen. I think if we lose this level here, this red line, Bitcoin heads to 24,000, the economy goes bust, I think we could see VRA come down to about this range here. I think that's a possibility. It could find a bit of support here before climbing back upwards. So that would be the bearish scenario, in saying that the downside risk is a lot smaller than the upside risk, or what should I say, the upside potential profit is much greater than the downside risk at the moment. The bullish scenario, of course, is that we enter back in here, close a candle, retest it as support, and that would send us back upwards to this demand zone. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. The demand zone is a very critical zone of resistance on this chart. If we're able to break through this demand zone, we could see a push upwards to 4 cents in the short term. Alternatively, rejecting from here could see exactly what we saw over here occur, which is another bleed downwards, retesting, and then making, again, a directional decision at the end. So the next 3 days is very crucial for VRA. We're going to zoom into a smaller time frame just to talk about it again. We can see on the smaller time frame we are somewhat rejecting from this level here, but it is, again, too soon to tell, because if we take a look at Bitcoin, I don't have the chart up at the moment. If we take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is in an ascending wedge formation. It could break to the upside and VRA could push into this wedge. So In the next few days, guys, keep an eye on this structure, keep an eye on the wedge. If you see VRA breaking into this wedge and closing a daily candle in the wedge, taking a long position with a stop loss underneath the red line and a potential profit target up into this demand zone is a pretty good risk reward. It's a 4.73, so it's a pretty good trade you can get out of this one. Alternatively, I'm going to say alternatively, if you want to wait, if you would rather wait for this primary structure, remember, primary structure, to break upwards, confirming the next move into a continued, or should I say, continued upward swing, you should wait until this demand zone breaks, we find support, we clear the previous high we made from that breakout, and then you enter. And we can expect a significant move, we can say from this point, another 60%, putting your stop loss underneath demand zone, 6.86 risk reward to a more favorable trade. That would be the more favorable trade. So what we're going to do next, guys, we're going to go into our technical analysis. Before we do that, a lot of people are probably going to ask me, you know, Whale, where can I buy VRA? Where can I grab VRA? We're going to go ahead and talk about an exchange called Bitget, and Bitget is one of my new favorite exchanges. We'll talk about it now. I wanted to quickly introduce my new favorite exchange, Bitget. Bitget is a non-KYC exchange, which is particularly beneficial for members in the UK and Australia who are limited by certain trade restrictions. Bitget has 250 plus spot trading pairs, as well as 60 plus leverage trading pairs, up to 125x leverage. Sign up now in the link in the description using our referral code to get up to $153 in rewards for completing 4 separate tasks. Let's go ahead and dive back into the video. So of course, guys, VRA is able to be purchased on Bitget as of the 25th of April, so a few days ago. So if you're interested in buying VRA and you don't have KuCoin, or you'd rather buy it somewhere else, Bitget is probably the best way to go with the low transfer fees. Let's get back into a technical analysis for this coin. We're going to go to the 3-day chart again. Let's bring up some of our indicators. So we're going to start with let's go RSI, one of my favorite indicators to use. And we'll bring up the MACD at the same time. Let's do both of these to start with. On the 3-day, we'll move it down to a smaller time frame as we go. Let's move the MACD down a little bit to start with. So we're going to go ahead and identify major zones of support on the RSI. And we can see already that we have identified a pretty significant zone here on the RSI, which is the 35 level on the RSI. We can see we're actually coming up to retest that 35 level on the RSI. At the same time, we're retesting this wedge. So if the RSI gets rejected here, we can expect the price to get rejected. Alternatively, if the RSI is able to actually get above this red line, the price will most likely follow through with that and continue upwards. We can see every time we push from the downside, if we look over here, the downside, and back upwards through this RSI level, we end up seeing a pretty significant rally. Not a huge rally, but you know, 50%, so pretty significant. And of course, we don't have a lot of data points here to confirm, you know, more than 2 or 3 instances, but it shows some validity in that statement. The next thing I do want to point out on the RSI, guys, is a huge descending, or should I say symmetrical, almost a symmetrical triangle formation, a descending zone of resistance, a descending line of resistance, which mimics or replicates this descending symmetrical triangle formation. And I do want to point out, we did mention about the breakout at this demand zone here, a retest and push upwards. That would be confirmed with the breakout of this declining or descending resistance on the RSI. So if you want confirmation of this move, beyond just price action, you would be looking for a break above and a retest, or just a break above. You don't really need the retest on RSI to confirm that momentum is now favorable. The problem with this one here, we didn't have a sustained break. It crashed back down. We need that sustained break to push us upwards, to have positive momentum in our favor on our side to actually keep the price going upwards. So we'll get rid of those two. MACD is looking pretty ordinary on the 3-day. If we go to a larger time frame, let's take a look. It's going to start looking a little bit more poor on the larger time frames because it is a lagging indicator, and of course the price has been dropping significantly. So if we go to a smaller time frame, again we can see there is some sort of shift over here. Obviously the bears are still massively dominating the price action on VRA. We can see that in the selling and buying over here. There was a period of conflux where we had a small decrease in selling pressure compared to buying volume, but obviously that selling volume came back, and we are still in negative territory here. The buying volume hasn't really been present since the beginning of April. So very much in a downtrend, very much looking pretty nasty until we get some positive buying pressure back over this lower symmetrical triangle resistance now. So we'll go back to the 3-day chart and we'll bring up some other indicators, and I want to bring up the Gaussian channel next. And I love the Gaussian channel because it can tell us a lot on the charts. And we'll start on the daily for the Gaussian channel and kind of build it upwards from there. Now the Gaussian channel did signify a drop to the downside, and we already knew that we were going to drop to the downside the moment we fell back into the channel. Every single time we fall into the channel, we see a drop to the downside. All right. Over here, over here. There was one instance where we didn't over here. That is an anomaly. Most of the time when you break in or from the top side down, you actually continue through the Gaussian channel. Vice versa, if you break from the bottom side in, you most generally continue through the Gaussian channel. Of course, the midpoint of confluence over here and over here can act as resistance levels on the Gaussian channel to flip the trend, which we saw both instances. But if you can get past that midpoint, we generally see a straight clean break through or upwards of the Gaussian channel. So right now we are very oversold in comparison to the Gaussian channel. We're going to have to go to a smaller time frame, but it is signifying obviously the price is still going to see a lot of resistance. And between the current price and this demand zone, there is a lot of volatility and not much confidence in the price direction. So if you are a safe trader, if you're looking for a safe time to buy VRA for the long term, definitely wait for this scenario to play out here, guys. Don't jump in yet. I'd be waiting personally. But of course, if you're dollar cost averaging and you've got a big stack of VRA already and you don't really care, obviously you do your thing, you dollar cost average. But I personally, as a trader, would recommend waiting for confirmation. So next up, guys, I just want to quickly bring up a question we had about VRA from one of our members on Twitter. So he asked, NeoChain, he asks, MegaWhale, yes please, can you give your honest opinion on your long-term price prediction of VRA for the next bull run, whenever that may be? So it's a great question from him because we don't really know when that next bull run is going to be. We have our bottom prediction, which is the July the 11th of 24,000 on Bitcoin. We have that bottom prediction, but we don't really know how soon after that will the bull run resume. So we're going to assume two things. We're going to give you two scenarios. We're going to assume the bottom's in right now. The first scenario would assume the bottom is completely in right now. We're going to do a fib retracement from the top to a current price, and we can easily assume that VRA will be reaching at least the 61.8 fib or up over here. All right, so we can assume that the 61.8, 1.618 or 2.618 on the fib could be reached. We can assume these levels could be reached on the retracement, which will put us around 13 cents respectively to 20 cents. So if we take a look at the total cryptocurrency market cap for VRA, we can see we're sitting at a max market cap of around 64 million at 1.4 cents. So that will take us to about 640 million to about a billion. So that would take us to about 640 million to $1 billion in market capitalization to get to these prices. I do think that is very attainable for VRA. Obviously, we have a lot of upcoming things with the esports, I think, if I read about correctly, and also the NFT marketplace and the crypto cards. And let's take a look. There was a lot of other things I saw in here. Their wallets, revamps, improved security, which is cool. The big ones were really the NFT marketplace and smart contracts and the gaming and esports contracts that we're doing. That was kind of the big things for VRA, if I recall correctly. But that is kind of our first scenario. The next scenario, of course, would be VRA comes down to this lower level. And I don't think our prediction changes much. I think our prediction for a bullish scenario for that bull run would kind of remain the same. I agree, around 14 to 22 cents as like kind of a minimum target. I think it's kind of a minimum target. The question is, how low can you buy it before that occurs? So are you buying here? Are you buying down here at that 12 or 7.5 area? Or are you buying down here at that 3.5 area? So that's a question that obviously we have kind of answered today already, and it really just is determined by what happens in the next 3 days and what happens with Bitcoin. So just to reiterate that, if Bitcoin falls to 24K and loses $37.3 thousand, keep that in mind, guys, loses $37.3 thousand, which is the major support, we can expect a minimum retracement to this level here, minimum. All right, it will happen. If Bitcoin loses 24,000, which is the 200-day moving average on the weekly chart, we can expect a retracement down to here. If none of those things happen and Bitcoin pumps and breaks out above $48,000 before it loses 37,300, we can expect a move upwards from here. All right, guys, I hope today's video was helpful. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed the content, the objective analysis, like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions that you want answered, like we did today with our subscribers question, leave them in the comments below. I'll answer them in the next video, whether it's a Bitcoin question, whether it's an Ethereum question, whether it's a general cryptocurrency question or a VRA question. Leave them in the comments below because we'll always go through and answer the questions. And finally, I just want to finish up with our Become a Trader course is launching in 15 days. If you're interested in that, the link to our website and the contact is in the description. Click on that, go head over to the website, take a look. It's a 10-unit course with over 50 hours of content, hundreds and hundreds of slides of information, hundreds of videos, and a bunch of worksheets to take anyone from any level of experience to a profitable, experienced trader within 10 units. With that being said, guys, I'll catch you in the next video.